Typically, the PC Engine Files opens with gameplay footage and me saying, I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and today we're looking at whatever the name of the game is. And in this case, that would be Cadash. But before we get to the gameplay footage, there are some issues with Cadash that need to be discussed to give you the full context of what this game is really all about. Now, as the Wikipedia entry notes, Cadash was an arcade game released in 1989 by Taito until it was ported to PC Engine and TurboGrafx in 1991 and to the Mega Drive and Sega Genesis in 1992. The localization from PC Engine to TurboGrafx 16 was handled by Working Designs, who gamers have very much a love-hate relationship with. They were one of the only companies that was actively porting in-depth Japanese role-playing games, but they were also known for taking liberties with the dialogue of said games and changing up the gameplay design, and Cadash is no exception to both. In fact, Cadash is what you would call a double whammy situation, where first they're losing things by porting it from an arcade game to home consoles, then they're changing things that make the balance of the gameplay different from the Japanese to the English version, which is why a lot of people would rather play it on PC Engine than TurboGrafx 16, because it is, in fact, a different game. For example, there are 4 different classes of character in this game, much like in Gauntlet, where you can pick from 4 different classes before you begin adventuring, but in the Japanese version, the priestess is the preferable choice thanks to her abilities, but in the North American version of Cadash, the fighter and the mage have been enhanced to have greater agility and defense and spell cost, and even take less damage, so now they not only rival, but in fact surpass the priestess in ability, so it completely throws off the gameplay, especially if you're playing co-op with a second player, because if you chose one player for their strengths and the other player for their strengths, suddenly those don't match up anymore, and you've got to choose them differently based on the North American version. Why they took these kind of liberties, it's really hard to say. Maybe they thought American players were too male, egotistical, macho to have a woman be their main. If so, that's a really ignorant point of view that I can't get behind, but how else do you explain what they did? Regardless of which region's version you play, it's dumbed down from the arcade original either way. Now, you could say that makes sense because an arcade game is supposed to be a quarter muncher, or I guess a yen muncher in Japan, and a home console version, you can play it as many times as you want because you own it, so why make it exceptionally hard? But it's not like Cadash is an easy game, which means that arcade game had to be brutally hard. Let me give you another example of the differences between one version and another. In the arcade game, you can only carry half as many herbs and antidotes as you can in the home console versions, which means you're going to die a lot faster in the arcade, but it's not like you're not going to die playing Cadash anyway, because you have to memorize where the enemies are before they attack you. No matter which player class you're playing as, things are going to come at you really fast, and you have to know they're coming, because no matter which warrior you choose and which abilities they have, you're going to have to time the attack to hit before they arrive. These slimes that drop from the top of the ceiling, if you don't crouch down to hit them, you're not going to get them. These bats that fly at you, if you're not swinging at them before they arrive, you're not going to hit them. Now, I get that with the fighter, they wanted the sword to be an accurate motion. They didn't want you to just insta-kill everything. They wanted you to actually have to swing the sword. But making it more realistic also makes it less playable. It's a difficult balance to strike for any game designer I know. And it's hard for me to even say if this is a product of the localization like the other changes they made, but it feels like it's really difficult to time things unless you memorize each and every level, which is why you're seeing me absolutely suck at this right now, because I haven't memorized any of these things. I'm playing it for the gameplay footage, and I haven't played Cadash for a long time. That's not because there weren't other ways to play Cadash. Cadash was released as part of a collection called Taito Legends Volume 2, but depending on which version of it you have, Cadash may not even be included. The PlayStation 2 version doesn't have it. The PC version does have it. The Xbox version has it, but the Xbox version was not released in North America. So if you bought this for PlayStation 2 and thought you were getting Cadash, you were shit out of luck. You could import the Taito Legends Volume 2 from Europe, and strangely enough, it actually works in a North American Xbox. There is no console lockout, region lockout, or any kind of thing that says, sorry, you can't play this, which to me suggests they never actually thought, we won't release this in the United States. Taito just got cold feet and said, nah, it's already on PS2, so why bother? Why bother? What if you actually wanted to play Cadash? That's why bother. So either you played it on PC, or you played it in emulation on a PC, or you owned a TurboGrafx 16 or a PC Engine and had it on there. Those were your choices. Ultimately, I don't think too many people were bothered by this because Cadash is a punishing game that is only good once you memorize it, and it is fun when you do, but if you're just jumping into it with cold feet and you haven't played it for a while, you're going to get your butt kicked quite a few times and have to go through it until it becomes rote. So I don't see this game as having had a great following and was probably the kind of game that was a rental title that people picked up and played for a little while and then returned. The prices certainly seem to reflect that. If you want a copy, North American copy that is, it's going to cost you $86 loose and $146 complete. So not exactly a plentifully supplied game. It's not a common game. It's not the least common game for TurboGrafx 16, but it's definitely getting into the quote-unquote, let's think about it carefully purchase. You want to play this one first before you buy it, because if you don't like the gameplay of Cadash and you're out $150, you're going to be kicking yourself for making that decision. There is a better option though. The TurboGrafx Mini does include Cadash, and in fact the PC Engine Mini also has Cadash, so whatever region, whatever version you get of the Mini, Cadash is on there. Obviously localized in the language that is applicable to that region, but you can play it without spending a crap ton of money on it. You can spend $150 for a complete copy of the game, but then you only have one game. Or you can buy the Mini and you can have over 50 games for what you would have spent on just one game. I'm not trying to make an Atari Jaguar joke out of this, but do the math, people. It works out in your favor to buy the Mini. Plus, you get the extra options like save states and console adjustments for pixel size that make it a truly enjoyable experience that's more sophisticated than an actual TurboGrafx 16 or PC Engine, because unless you've got something like the Super SD System 3 or an EverDrive, you can't tweak a lot of things, but with this, you can, and you will enjoy it that much more. So get yourself a TurboGrafx Mini if Cadash seems appealing to you. It is absolutely the better choice compared to buying a physical copy of the game. But as far as prices go for the Japanese version, it's definitely preferable to paying for the North American version made by Working Designs, even without their, shall we say, questionable localization choices. Not that all of them were bad. I mean, they're trying their best because nobody else was even doing it at the time. I just wish they had stuck to changing the language and not changing the gameplay as well. If you want to import it and you have a HuCard converter that you can use on your TurboGrafx or Turbo Duo, you can get it loose for $35, and if you want it complete, you can get it for $69. So it's not super cheap, but it's definitely cheaper than $150 for the US version and $80 for the loose card of the US version. So PC Engine saves you some money in this case, but TurboGrafx Mini or PC Engine Mini or even the Core Graphics Mini is the better value, comparatively speaking. Cadash is worth a look. It's not for everybody, but there is some merit to this game that I think is enjoyable enough. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This is the PC Engine Files. Like, share, and subscribe to help the channel, and I'll see you all in another week.